Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Businesses in Scotland are at a natural disadvantage. This is because 17 years of SNP rule has put them there. The SNP are anti-business. You know this because they keep imposing more and more licensing, more and more sort of reporting and bureaucracy, and of course the income tax is higher. So anyone who does get qualified immediately goes to England, where they can not only earn more, but they get to retain more of it as well. And that is therefore leading to massive recruitment problems for businesses north of the border. And this is not a good thing. If you need an economy to grow, of course you need the people. And of course the SNP do need the economy to grow. Otherwise they'll be bankrupt. The only problem is, of course, they're tied their hands together with the Greens, who don't want businesses to grow. They're anti-growth. The last thing that the Greens want is growth. And so having a poor business environment is good news for the Greens. Bad news for the people of Scotland. But we'll take a look at this article and see what is going on and why businesses in Scotland are suffering so much more than elsewhere in the UK. Here goes. So SNP's anti-business mentality hits Scots businesses who are finding it harder than the rest of the UK to recruit. As I say, one of the reasons you have is that people, once they get qualified in a particular task, will go elsewhere because they're going to earn more and not pay as much tax. So whose fault's that? Can't blame this one on Westminster. This is entirely down to the SNP raising income tax. Around 60% of businesses in Scotland reported issues with hiring staff, leading to critics to call it a poor reflection on the SNP's 16 years in government. It's near 17 now, isn't it? The SNP government have been told that their anti-business mentality is having an impact on Scots businesses who are struggling more than the other UK regions to hire staff. Now, of course, they're a very left-wing party, aren't they? So they're not pro-business. The ones on the left are all to do with, planned political economies. They don't like sort of free economies. They don't like people making money that they can't then get their hands on, which is why they always try to license things. It's that protection racket of you make money, we make money. Hey, one of those. And so they just have this. They just don't like the idea of a sort of they don't like capitalism. They don't like people benefiting and making a lot of money off their own hard work. That's the problem. Anyway, this is according to fresh data by the Office of National Statistics that spoke to 10,000 businesses to assess their hiring experiences throughout August. In Scotland, 29.1% of businesses said they had found it difficult, the highest in the UK, and above the overall average of 23.3%. So across the whole of Britain it's 23%. In Scotland it's 29%. Pamela Nash from Scotland in Union said, "It's a serious concern that Scottish businesses are finding it tougher than their UK counterparts to hire new employees. This has an impact on the economy, on jobs, on opportunities and on communities." It has an impact across everything. If you can't get the staff in, you can't grow your business. And if you can grow your business, then you're going to grow someone else's because you've got the supply lines. Everybody wins. It's a virtuous circle. But if you can't grow your business, it's a bugger, isn't it? The SNP has been wrestling with the backlash from industry following threats to North Sea oil and gas, and, among other things, the impact of the deposit return scheme, alcohol advert legislation and short-term let licences. So basically they want to close down Scotland's biggest industry, oil and gas. They want to damage the recycling industry. They want to damage the drinks industry, and they want to damage the tourist industry. In it, a strange place for a party that says it wants to encourage growth. Hypocrite much? Anyway, the presence of the anti-growth Scottish Greens in government has also led to tensions with the business sector, and we've mentioned that. They just hate the idea of businesses growing and doing well because they're even further to the left. They're Marxist in comparison with the SNP. And because they absolutely too hate the idea of growth, because growth means people become wealthy, and when people are wealthier, they're happy. And when people are happy and wealthy, they don't listen to the extreme parties like the Greens, and the Greens become increasingly less important. And people just go, Yeah. You're just a bunch of weird nutters, aren't you? And of course, regardless of whether you're rich or poor, they are just a bunch of weird nutters. But as we've seen, they're dangerous, weird nutters who support the baby murderers of Hamas. So we need to really start treating them as the PD, Hamas supporting weirdos that they are. Anyway, the Scottish rate the Scottish rate of those saying they've had experienced no difficulties was the lowest in the UK, with just 41.5%, citing no issues. Ms Nash said it's also a poor reflection on the SNP's 16 years in government, over which time it's been in charge of, among other policies, education and skills. So the Nationalists have long been accused of having anti-business mentality, and that appears to have been backed up by these statistics. They will have to explain to businesses why it is harder here to find the staff they need than in any other part of the UK. Perhaps if the SNP government hadn't been so distracted by independence for the last decade, hard-working businesses wouldn't be facing these kinds of issues. No, but of course they're not going to do anything to help anyone unless it is, either going to give them some money in their back pocket, through, let's license it and registration things and this, that and the other. Let's get a layer in. And we've got to have a bit of control on that. We've got to micromanage this. That's what they have there. Or, of course, the fact that does it directly help them in independence? Because if it doesn't do either of those things, they're not interested, are they? Anyway, in Northern Ireland, 26% experienced difficulties, while in Wales the figure was 26.6%, England 22.6%, and of course in Scotland 29.3%. The survey included responses from nearly 1,300 businesses in Scotland. Wellbeing Economy Secretary Neil Gray, he's also in charge of energy, but he isn't. His title includes energy, but he's not in charge of energy. It's a very weird title that he's got. But then I suppose they don't want to overload him. He's not very bright, is he? He says responsibility for immigration and employment law is reserved to the UK government. What's that got to do with employment? What's immigration got? Are you saying that there's too few people for Scotland and that you can't get enough people in? Why is Scotland so unattractive to people? Anyway, he says that an urgent rethink of immigration policy is needed so that there is increased access for Scottish businesses to international labour and skills. What he means is cheap labour and cheap skills. Not in, labour and skills. Cheap labour is what he wants. How about this? Let's not have cheap labour. Let's pay people what they need. Let's not go in and get these people from abroad who will work at less than the rate of the British people just because you need to make the rich richer. Let's force the rich to pay the going rate for the job. Anyway, the Scottish Government, he said, is taking forward a range of measures, including providing a range of employability support to help people to enter the labour market and developing our talent attraction programme. But what you're going to do there is you're going to help people get in, they'll get the experience, and they'll piss off to England because they don't want to pay as much tax as they have to pay in Scotland. And also all the businesses are moving south as well because tax. Ultimately, tax. And if you really want to improve lives of people in Scotland, employment statistics in Scotland, and help businesses grow in Scotland, reduce the tax. That's all you need to do. Anyway, I shall stop there and come up. So there you are. If you want to open a business in Scotland, open it in England. That's what the SNP are saying. Because they're going to tax you highly and they're going to make it very hard for you to employ people. The talent is going to go south because of tax. And, that's not even taking into consideration the education levels, which have fallen dramatically. And so even those people who would love to work are probably not even qualified to do so because the Scottish schooling system is so appallingly bad. And we will address that in the next video. But anyway, there we go. I shall finish there. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this has been quite illuminating. And it goes to show how the SNP really don't care. They absolutely are pushing for an agenda of poverty and misery. They don't want businesses to succeed, regardless of what they say. Actions speak louder than words, of course. Anyway, until next time, stay safe, stay well, and work hard. Bye.